distance learners, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to give you some instructions and walk us through a little bit about what we need to know in order to do our assignment for today. We're going to be looking at something called characterization. Characterization is something that we've done a couple of times. However, it's been a while, so I want to review and do some more practice with this today. So characterization is the choices or the way that an author chooses to present their characters and their stories to us. One of the things that I've mentioned before is that the choices an author makes are intentional, meaning that the choices are done not randomly, but done on purpose. Everything that they've done, decided to include, or the way that they've described or had added their characters' personalities are things that are important and specific and are things that affect the story. So they are important. In this case here, we're looking at characterization and some of the specific ways that authors use that in the story, The Monkey's Paw, which is a story that we've been reading for the past 2 weeks. Some of the ways that authors will develop their characters or develop or give characterization is they'll give descriptions of the characters. They'll have dialogue to show the characters' personalities and interactions between each other. They'll show conflict between each of the characters. They might discuss the characters' points of view of the world and their motivations as well. So as we read or as we review our story, The Monkey's Paw today, some of the ways that we can think about this is we want to look at some of the ways that the authors chose to develop those specific characters in The Monkey's Paw, and then how those characters may change over time, and then how some of those characters or the authors choose to specifically do that. In this case here, we're going to use this strategy called the S.T.E.A.L strategy. It stands, each letter stands for a different word. In this case here, S stands for speech, T stands for thoughts, E stands for effect, A stands for actions, and L stands for looks. So we're going to look for characters' speech, their thoughts, their effect on other characters, and the actions they take, and looks and descriptions of what they look like. So speech, what do the characters say in the story? What does things like the dialogue show us? How do they speak, especially to other characters? They speak kindly. Do they speak openly? Do they speak often to other characters? And what does the character think? What is revealed through their thoughts? What do they believe and value? What motivates them? Those are some things that we can ask ourselves about their thoughts. We can look at their effect, what effect they have on other characters. Do they make another character nervous? Do they make another character uncomfortable? What is the relationship between this character and others? How do they treat each other? And actions, what does the character do? This is one of the biggest ones and one of the most important things that drives a plot in a story. How does the character behave? How do they react? What do they do? And then looks, what does the character look like? How do they dress? The author will often give descriptions of what they look like, what they wear, and things like that. And things like their clothes and their appearance can reveal things about the character's personalities. For example, if they're wearing a certain brand of clothes, maybe they have more money than a different character. Or if they are wearing a lot of bright colors, maybe they like to be adventurous and maybe a little flamboyant. And that might show us some things about their personality as well. So these things are all important. So we're going to look at a couple of examples that will help us identify some of the speech, thoughts, effects, actions, and looks of some characters. So I'm going to highlight certain things, different colors, to help us identify some of these things and these examples a little more clearly. And then you guys can just follow along. I'm going to give you a couple. You can't really see that one too well, so let's do a different color. We'll do red. Okay, let's take a look at this first passage here. This is from the novel that for those of us who are reading on in person, but it'll still work for us. So let's read this. Oregon's stepmother didn't look like she belonged at Crow's Manor. Her spun gold hair and sun-kissed skin, a souvenir from the summer she'd just spent de-stressifying on the glorious beaches of Southeast Prosper, were out of place among the midnight black hair and pale, sickly complexions of the Crow family. Crows never tanned. So let's look for our speech, thoughts, effect, actions, and looks here. In this case here, I remember seeing the spun gold hair and the sun-kissed skin. These are specific descriptions of the character, in this case, Morgan's stepmother's looks. She has spun gold hair, meaning her hair is gold and blonde, and sun-kissed skin, maybe she's a little tan, a little pink. All right, and then we see the description of the crows as having midnight black hair and pale, sickly complexions, and that crows never tan. These are the wrong color. These are more descriptions of looks. And so the descriptions of the looks should be in red here. My apologies. So we see more descriptions of looks here. We don't necessarily see any speech. I don't see any descriptions of thoughts, and I don't really see any descriptions of things that show the effect of that character on other characters. And then actions. Ooh, we do see some actions though. It says that she spent the summer de-stressifying on the glorious beaches of Southeast Prosper. So she went to the beach all summer. In this case here, someone who has the time and the money to go to a beach all summer instead of having a job or doing something else like taking care of their family, maybe they have a little bit more financial resources than someone else. So we can make the assumption or guess that Morgan's stepmother probably isn't lacking in the money department. She's probably rich. So looking at someone's actions or a character's actions shows us things about them, shows us things about what they do and things about what they are important to them and things that they have the ability or access to. In this case here, she has access to money. All right, so those are some labeling of the looks, her actions. Let's look at another example here. In this one here, we start off right off the bat, and I see a double quotation marks. This indicates that someone is speaking. So I'm going to highlight this yellow. We see some speech here. What's my knack? Asked Morgan. Mind if I nick a pastry? I'm famished, said Jupiter. Some more speech. I'm going to highlight that yellow. Help yourself. What's my knack? They continue speaking. Some more yellow. Okay, we see a break. Jupiter stuffed his mouth full of pastry while Morgan watched him and fretted. Okay, this is an action. This is something this character is doing. He's not talking. This is an action. Let's keep going. Okay, I don't have one, do I? Because you got the wrong person. We see some more discussion. And then we see this guy swallows. He's finishing his breakfast. And then he changes the subject. Before I forget, my seamstress is coming to fit you for a new wardrobe this morning. What's your favorite color? Okay, in this case here, we see mostly speech and we mostly see action besides that. So let's look at this speech. We have this character who's asking, what's my knack? What's my talent? Over and over and over again. We have this other character named Jupiter who is ignoring this. This shows me that this character, Morgan, who's asking over and over again, maybe a little concerned. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe she's frustrated. The way and how and when a person or a character speaks reveals things about their emotional state. And this also shows me that Morgan is maybe the type of person who likes to know what's going on around her. If we look at Jupiter's response, instead of answering her question, he's eating his breakfast and ignoring her question. He's stuffing his mouth full of pastry. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all love a good breakfast pastry. However, it's a little rude, it's a little careless, a little thoughtless. He's not answering her question, and instead he's even changing the subject to something totally different. So if we have a character who's doing something like this, we can make the assumption that maybe they're a pretty chill person, maybe they're a little careless, maybe they're a little thoughtless, maybe they're not super considerate of someone's feelings. Those are some words that I might take a guess at. And as we see, none of those things are specifically labeled in the text as being those things. We don't see Jupiter being described that way. However, it's something we can figure out from the way that he's acting, or his actions, or his dialogue, his speech. So all of the choices an author makes are intentional, meaning that they were done on purpose and for a reason to show us things about that character. This is what you guys are going to be doing with the monkey's paw. You're going to look through the monkey's paw and you're going to find one example of speech, thoughts, effect, actions, and looks for each of these from each of these S.T.E.A.L characterization strategies for these characters. So you'll have to read through it and review. We've already read it and we've been doing things with this story, so it's not new. You're going to look for examples of one of the characters' speech, something of their thoughts, something of their effect on the other story characters in the story, something about their actions, and then something about their looks. You're going to find those direct quotes from the story, and then you're going to follow this formula, put your text evidence, and then explain why that is important to the character. So if we describe one of the characters as being old and wrinkly, what is that age, or what does that show us about the character? Are they old? Are they young? Maybe they're more wise or more knowledgeable than another character. So those are some things that we might want to keep in mind. So here's an example. This one's from Thoughts. This one here is showing one of the character's thoughts here, and then it describes, and then I added my own explanation of why that quote, note that I put it in quotation marks, is important, what it shows about that character. You only need to do one per each. So one for speech, one for thoughts, one for effect, one for actions, and one for looks. You can choose any of the characters from the story that you would like. This is a major grade, so if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Have a good day.